No, I choose people who don't want to be written about, on the whole, whose lives are shrouded in mystery, and they want to hide their secrets. And I just love the king has been far too lenient with him. And that it's not just now this sex case.
The internet hadn't even recovered from its last royal shock when Tom Bower, the man everyone calls Britain's most feared biographer, returned, and this time, he didn't just drop a bomb. He detonated a whole minefield under two of the most controversial names in royal history, Meghan Markle and Prince Andrew. The gossip world froze. People knew when Bower spoke, someone in the palace was about to have a very bad week.
That there are two truths. The first truth is that the conversation, I'm told and I believe, was very early on in their relationship when Harry is bowled over.
It all started innocently, a short 30-second teaser clip. No title, no big announcement, just Tom Bower sitting back in his chair, that cold, calculating glint in his eyes, hands clasped like a man holding the nation's next secret. And then he said that line once so chilling that it ripped through the internet like thunder. People would be shocked to learn how closely intertwined certain royal figures truly were and who benefited. That was it. No names, no hints, just enough to make every newsroom panic. Within minutes, Twitter, or X as they call it now, exploded. Meghan, Andrew, Meghan, Andrew. Their names were flying through trending tabs like sparks in a storm. And the madness began. People couldn't believe it. Meghan Markle, the Duchess of Sussex, and Prince Andrew, the disgraced Duke, mentioned in the same breath? How could they possibly be connected? But that was all it took for the speculation machine to burst into life.
Yes, it is a bad look, especially for Prince Andrew, because he has always denied having any sort of sexual contact with Epstein's girls.
What did he mean? People cried. What connection was he hinting at, and why now? Theories spread faster than wildfire. Some said it was about hidden rivalries, others whispered about secret financial ties, palace politics, or ancient grudges buried in royal silence. But one theory, the juiciest one, went viral overnight, that Tom Bower was about to reveal a buried chapter of chaos involving both Meghan and Andrew. A chapter the palace had allegedly buried deep. And when Bower refused to explain further, that made it worse. By sunrise, social media was in flames. TikTok, YouTube, X, every platform was flooded with wild guesses and insider analysis. Royal watchers uploaded videos dissecting every breath in that clip. Screenshots were shared millions of times. Even late-night hosts in America cracked jokes, feeding the frenzy. But behind closed doors, inside the royal walls, it was no joke. The palace went on high alert, emergency meetings, hushed phone calls, a tight-lipped damage control operation. One insider whispered, "Whenever Bower talks, the palace braces for impact." And no one was ready for what came next.
About his relationship, and there was no compulsion for him to do it. And that not only...
Just 2 hours later, Tom Bower struck again. This time, he dropped an extended excerpt from his upcoming project live on air. No names again, but this time he added a cryptic line that froze journalists mid-sentence. It is astonishing how events thought to be disconnected were, in truth, shaped by the same hand. The internet imploded.
Shocked at just how thin-skinned Harry is. You know, Meghan I almost understood. She's a Hollywood B-list to be charitable actress. She was a social climber. Her whole thing is about image, so I can see why she's so easy to upset.
Everyone started tearing apart his words like detectives on caffeine. Who's the same hand? What events? Why now? And the timing? It couldn't have been worse. Meghan was already battling bad PR storms in California, and Andrew had just been dragged back into headlines over his past scandals. To critics, it was obvious Bower was talking about them. Suddenly, Meghan's team was in full panic mode. Phones ringing, emails flying, lawyers pacing. One PR source said, "They're terrified. They don't know what he's holding." Meanwhile, Andrew's side, dead silent. Which, in royal terms, means the walls are shaking. Reporters started digging up everything, old charity appearances, mutual contacts, overlapping schedules. Anything that could explain Bower's tease. But nothing solid surfaced. Just whispers. And then the first leak hit. A whistleblower from a production studio claimed Bower's revelations would shock both American and British audiences and expose links no one ever saw before. The tabloids went nuclear. YouTube channels released breakdowns. And Meghan? Sources said she was pacing around her Montecito mansion, furious. Inside the palace, staffers whispered that Andrew had been warned the story could reopen old wounds the family hoped were buried forever. Still, no one was prepared for the next twist. Bauer appeared again, this time in another interview clip. No smirks, no riddles, just cold eye contact with the camera and a single sentence that detonated across the world. "This is the chapter the palace hoped I would never write." Gasps, shock, chaos. Comment sections exploded. News anchors interrupted broadcasts. It was no longer a question of if Meghan and Andrew were in trouble, it was about how bad it would get. Because if there's one thing Tom Bauer doesn't do, it's bluff. And he had just declared war on the royal silence. From that moment, the frenzy became unstoppable. Commentators, bloggers, journalists, everyone jumped in. People said Meghan's camp was preparing legal responses while Andrew's aides locked down communications. And Bauer, calm as ever. Like a man who just set fire to the forest and was now sipping tea watching it burn. Tom Bauer never teases lightly. When he speaks, the royals hold their breath. And this time, it wasn't just a bombshell, it was an earthquake. Within minutes of his latest interview airing, the internet went wild. People couldn't refresh their feeds fast enough. Clips spread everywhere. Bauer's claims weren't direct attacks. They were expertly worded truths, layered with sharp interpretation. The kind of truths that make people sweat without ever breaking a law. Inside Buckingham Palace, insiders claimed they knew his book was coming, but no one expected the storm to hit this hard. What was meant to be analysis of public behavior turned into a wildfire of online theories. Within hours, royal debate channels flooded the web. Think pieces, YouTube panels, podcasts, it became a media hurricane. Meanwhile, inside Montecito, silence turned into chaos. Sources whispered Meghan was furious pacing, yelling, demanding to know how Bauer got certain private details. She believed some stories were sealed behind legal walls. Harry, meanwhile, was reportedly exhausted, heartbroken. He knew he couldn't stop it, one insider said, but it still broke him. Across the ocean, Andrew's staff went into lockdown. No comment became the order of the day. Yet even silence couldn't stop the fire. Experts began dissecting Bauer's every word. For once, royal watchers who never agreed on anything suddenly united in awe. Tom Bauer had hit a pressure point. It didn't matter if people loved Meghan or hated Andrew, this story had everyone watching. Inside the palace, the atmosphere was suffocating. Quiet meetings, coded emails, frantic message reviews, everyone trying to calculate how to contain what had already gone viral. Because in royal PR, it's not about truth, it's about perception. And Bauer had just rewritten perception in real time. Online, speculation became obsession. Some said Meghan would fight back publicly. Others believed she'd play silent and let her allies speak for her. But behind the scenes, one rumor stood out. Meghan was allegedly drafting her own counter-narrative. Not a press release, not a lawyer's note, but a personal, emotionally charged message to flip the script to paint Bauer as the obsessed antagonist who's been targeting her for years. She wants to flip it, an insider said, turn the scrutiny back on him, but the internet moves faster than strategy. Old clips, interviews, and forgotten footage resurfaced. People stitched together timelines, made theories, and convinced themselves they'd uncovered hidden royal patterns. By the next morning, number Bauer bombshell trended across continents, and through it all, the palace said nothing. Not a word, not a denial, not a whisper. It was the oldest royal strategy, never explain, never complain. But this time, the silence was deafening. Inside, aides whispered that tensions between the Sussexes and the palace had turned radioactive. Others said the monarchy was done being dragged into Meghan's chaos. Whether true or not, it didn't matter. The narrative had already escaped the palace gates. Tom Bauer sat calm and composed. When an editor asked if he'd reconsider his words, he reportedly smiled and said, "I write for the record, not for their approval." And that's what terrified both Meghan and Andrew. Because unlike tabloids that disappear by morning, Tom Bauer's words live forever in books, in documentaries, in archives, in the cultural bloodstream. And this storm, was far from over. And just when people thought the storm might settle, new whispers began leaking out of media circles. Apparently, Tom Bauer hadn't revealed everything. There were drafts, notes, and interview segments he'd kept back for later releases, and those, insiders claimed, contained the truly explosive material. Suddenly, everyone from talk show hosts to tabloid reporters started hunting for clues. Every sentence he'd ever written about the royals was reread, every old interview replayed, every contact he'd ever mentioned questioned again. In Montecito, Meghan was reportedly losing sleep. One close friend told a journalist she felt haunted by Bauer's words, not because of what he said, but because of what he might still be holding. Her PR advisors kept warning her to stay quiet, to let the news cycle pass, but she couldn't stop checking updates. Each new headline seemed designed to wound her. "He's obsessed with me," she allegedly said during a call. "He's made a career out of painting women like me as villains." Harry, meanwhile, was said to be torn between fury and fatigue. He'd seen this pattern before. One comment spirals into 1,000 headlines, and before they even respond, the world has already decided what to believe. He wanted to protect Meghan, but he also knew that confronting Bauer would only pour gasoline on the fire. So the couple withdrew. Their phones switched off for hours at a time, but silence only fueled speculation further. Paparazzi camped outside their gates, cameras clicking at every delivery truck that entered. Across the Atlantic, Andrew's team wasn't faring much better. Insiders whispered that he'd been advised to stay invisible. No appearances, no statements, not even a polite smile in public. "He's rattled," one royal staffer said quietly. Even if Bauer's claims are mostly interpretation, it's the association that destroys reputations. Within days, old controversies that had been fading from public memory were revived in headlines again. His name, paired with Meghan's, dominated every trending list. It was a nightmare both camps couldn't wake up from. Meanwhile, Bauer continued his press tour calm, composed, and ruthless. Every time an interviewer tried to bait him into revealing names, he'd smile that thin, knowing smile and say, "People can draw their own conclusions." That sentence alone became a meme. Clips of his interviews flooded TikTok, stitched alongside dramatic background music, fiery transitions, and endless speculation about which royal hand had supposedly linked Meghan and Andrew. Inside Buckingham Palace, the Queen's senior advisors were reportedly furious at how fast the scandal was spreading. "It's not even about truth anymore," one insider confessed. "It's about perception, and right now, the monarchy looks chaotic." Meetings went late into the night. Every word from palace representatives had to be weighed like gold dust. A single misplaced sentence could reignite the blaze. But while officials scrambled for stability, Bauer seemed completely untouchable. His book pre-orders soared. Publishers ramped up marketing. Even his old interviews started trending again. For him, controversy wasn't chaos, it was currency. The man understood the media machine better than anyone alive, and he played it like a violin. Back in Montecito, Meghan's circle reportedly grew smaller. Friends who once defended her online began going quiet, scared of drawing attention. One former aide confessed anonymously, "You can't win against someone like Bauer. He doesn't argue, he documents." That sentence hit hard, because it wasn't just gossip anymore. It was history being written in real time, with her and Andrew as unwilling co-stars. And yet, even amid the storm, something shifted. Viewers began debating not just the claims, but the culture around them, how quickly society builds up and tears down public figures, how easily private pain becomes global entertainment. Bauer had tapped into more than scandal. He'd opened a mirror to the monarchy's strange modern circus. By the end of the week, the frenzy showed no sign of slowing. Talk shows replayed his interviews on loop. Late-night hosts joked that Buckingham Palace must have its phones glued to silent mode. Every corner of the internet buzzed with one question: what's next? Would Meghan respond? Would Andrew issue a denial? Or would both disappear behind the walls of silence the monarchy has perfected for centuries? And as those questions echoed through headlines, Tom Bauer sat once again before a camera, that same unshakable composure in his eyes. When asked if he regretted the chaos he'd caused, he simply smiled and said, "Truth always unsettles the comfortable." The host stared, speechless. The internet exploded again. And somewhere, in the calm before the next inevitable wave, two royal households waited, knowing the story wasn't done and the silence had just begun to roar louder than ever.